Well, it's been a chaotic last couple of 24 to 48 hours for the both of us, but we're certainly ready to go here as we get started with another exciting episode of the NSMA 2026 FIFA World Cup podcast. Welcome to everyone watching and listening around the world. Spencer Thompson alongside Drew Williamson. We got 10 games to recap, 6 of them to preview, and what's been an exciting start to the third game of group play. But to start out, I kind of jumped the gun in saying that we were going to have an episode yesterday. Of course, forgot to convert time zones and didn't realize, oh, yeah, my flight gets into Los Angeles at like 10:30 West Coast time. So I would have made Drew have to do the show at like 2 in the morning, which we've already had to do that a little bit when I was out in Seattle of doing like late, brutal episodes. So I'm like, let me give him a little bit of a break. So
I appreciate it.
the goal initially was to have an episode to end the second games of group play, and then get into our predictions for today's games. Which, by the way, we also did put down a hard record of what our predictions were right about when the first matches were starting, like a couple of them in. But I had already made up my mind at least with the predictions and all of that. So we will read those out as we recap those matches. But we're gonna get into the recapping of the June 23rd matches to, start off. But Drew, you got your head on straight at least at this point?
I'm not going to lie to you when I say it has been a rather stressful really last like 3 or 4 hours, kind of having to travel and stuff never is easy. And then, equipment not working is also, not easy. Bad Wi-Fi connection, no air conditioning. It's just, you can't get any better than this. But I love talking about sports and this World Cup. So got to be happy about something, right?
If it makes you feel any better, this hotel Wi-Fi has had a maximum of 1 hour where any of my devices have been on it. So I'm using my phone hotspot right now.
That's
So if I can disconnect out again like I was the last couple of times on the last episode, it's because of Verizon throttling down my data, which I would not be surprised if they did that anyways, because I use this thing. I make it work hard for me instead of working hard to afford it. So, all right, let's get into it. Group L was starting to finalize their matches, and I got to tell you, Drew, I think this is the tie-herd round, the FIFA World Cup. This is one of those that can either make or break teams as they head down into the stretch of their third games. England, Ghana, 0-0. Boston was treated to a very defensive heavy game that had a decent amount of opportunities, including that final incredible header there by England that hit off of the post. And I mean, let me rephrase it. The folks that were attending in Boston Stadium, they had an incredible treat if they were fans of England. If they were fans of Ghana, they were incredibly frustrated. 2 attempts on goal, 1 on target, and to just 2 measly corners, 23% of ball possession. Not a lot to get excited for about Ghana other than the goaltending. I mean, that's really what kept them in this competition and kept them competitive against Harry Kane and this England team. And I have to imagine if you're a fan of the England national team, you have to be really frustrated with not coming out with what a lot of people predicted was going to be an easy 3 points against Ghana.
Absolutely. I have tons of my friends who are huge England supporters, and they were all texting me after the game just with their frustrations and how utterly disappointed they were in their team. And it really wasn't even about the result. They just felt like this England team did not play hard enough, and they came in expecting a win, and you can never do that in the World Cup. And I think it showed today. I think this will waken this England team up because they just went and defeated a Croatia team who, in my opinion, is better than Ghana, looked really good in that game, beat them 4-2, and then you're going to come out against Ghana and not even put one in the back of the net. Harry Kane had a golden opportunity there at the very end of the game that he ended up skying over the goal, which was frustrating. But the thing that sticks out to me in this match was England having 19 shots, but only 3 of them being on goal. That is not the ratio you want against a team like Ghana. And in general, that England is considered by a lot to be a top 4, top 5 nation in this World Cup. And I just think that that efficiency in the final third is a bit scary and a bit why the narrative of England, can't seem to push over the hump and beat the great teams and win the World Cup is for things like that. Now, I do think they will bounce back. This England team has loads of talent, we all know, but very disappointing to draw this one. It's not the end of the world. They still have so much time left in this World Cup, haven't even finished their group stage matches, but it's very alarming.
You said it yourself. I mean, 3 attempts on target, 19 attempts on goal total for England. It's something that, especially for the fact that the most exciting thing to happen in that game was that Harry Kane header at the end. That's where you get so disappointed. And, we're going to get into the talking about the Panama-Croatia matchup. But I don't think anyone thought this Ghana team would be sitting at second in the group after 2 games. Like, it's just genuinely with the way the Group L is played out, it's just very shocking with how these things have gone down. And the other thing I want to talk about it as well is that there were some opportunities as well that were great for Ghana where it looked like they were going to be the team that was going on top of England, but twice called off sides on those opportunities. So this was, even with the minimal possession, even with the minimal attempts on goal, Ghana felt like the better team in this competition, and it's just so weird to say that, especially because of this England team that everyone is the number 4 team on the Coca-Cola FIFA rankings, coming in no conceded goals with 8 qualifiers, especially after the start-started finish they had against Croatia to take sort of a stranglehold on the top spot in the group. It's just, and for Ghana as well, for them to come in with that 1-0 victory against Panama coming into their second game, I mean, this is, if you're Ghana, you're in a really good place right now, even though you've got a Croatia team that definitely wants to seal their fate into the next round.
Yeah, I think if you're Ghana, you are so happy that you got that late goal against Panama because those 3 points were huge. And not even that, I bet they didn't even go into these next 2 games expecting a draw. And the fact that you drew England, who are the best team in this group, is so is so impressive, and it almost guarantees them a spot into the round of 32. And it's a great result for Ghana. I mean, you could not have drawn it up any better for them. As far as their next game against Croatia, that's going to be a really interesting one because Croatia did not look that convincing in their 1-0 win to Panama. So that's going to be a thriller I can't wait for.
Yeah, and a perfect segue on that. As we mentioned, England is technically they are leading the group over Panama. Both teams have 4 points, but England at +2 on their goal differential. Ghana at +1. Wow. Amazing to think they're at +1 throughout the first 2 games on that. But Panama and England face off on Saturday, and Croatia and Ghana do as well. But speaking of Croatia, Panama, Croatia. As you meant, you just phrased it perfectly, Drew. Croatia did not look convincing. Yes, 60% of ball possession. Yes, they had 6 attempts on goal, 2 of them on target. Panama had 8 attempts on goal, 1 on target. And also, Panama, 7 corners, Croatia, 2. And this, this tells me that Croatia was deflated after losing to England, like flat out, especially going into this competition against Panama with a -2 goal differential. I mean, both teams essentially fighting for their round of 32 lives because whoever lost this one was definitely going to get eliminated from the round of 32. And the fact that Panama lost in stoppage time in the second half, Panama, in my opinion, is not as bad as I played him out to be. And I mean, I said it on the last time we recapped the Group L matches that Panama should have gotten a victory against Ghana if they wanted to get their first points in World Cup history. But for a moment there, it looked like they were going to do that and get their first draw. So, credit to Panama on actually being a competitive team on this and their backline standing fairly well. Fortunately, in I'll rephrase. So the first game they lost in extra time, where it looks like they were going to get their first point in World Cup history. Now the goal was earlier by Ante Budimir for Croatia at the 54th minute, and Panama at that point was playing back. But they generated a lot of those chances and tried to set up those plays at the end of the second half. And Croatia's defense just seemed to crumble a little bit and didn't really have an answer. So, honestly, Croatia is lucky that it's only 8 attempts on goal and 1 on target for Panama, because if they had found any opportunities, this would have easily been a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, I mean, you said it perfectly. This was anybody's game. Croatia did not look like definitively the better team, and Panama created more chances, had more shots, had more crosses into the box. Like you said, the 7-2 corner ratio is just not something you want to see if you're a Croatia fan. I mean, this is like a team that, like you said, is not nearly as good as you are, especially in the FIFA. I always go back to the FIFA Coca-Cola rankings just because they, those are the experts that rank those teams and they see everything. And Croatia on paper is the much better team, but did not play like it. And honestly, it's a really interesting, development here, because you got to think of it as a way of like Croatia has made the semifinals in the last 2 World Cups they've been in. Are they slowly fading from what they used to be? And we're kind of seeing that in this World Cup, because right now it's seeming to be that way. I know they lost to a great England team 4-2, and they played competitive for a majority of that match, but this result was not good enough for me if you're Croatia. For Panama's side of things, you're happy that your team is playing and competing in these games, but you're also really frustrated because you know that you could have had 2 games now where you had at least a draw, and honestly could have won both games if you really want to deep dive into it. You're frustrated right now because you at least think you should have a point from these 2 games, and you ended up losing both of them 1-0. Really tough and really deflating for Panama now having to play England in their third group stage game, but you got to give them some credit because they came out and they really battled this game. It just ultimately didn't go their way.
And it's also frustrating because with their loss, they were the 4th team eliminated from the round of 32. And again, this is a whole what might have been thought process, especially against the Ghana team where they lost in extra time. They could have gotten at least a tie point twice. They could have been with 2 points at this phase, and they could have very easily been in contention to get to the round of 32. Because, I mean, Group L right now, nobody's clinched anything for it. England's sitting at the top by just 1 goal. Ghana is, the fact that Ghana was able to tie them, that saved their that basically saved anyone from clinching Group L and hosting the round of 32 matchup. And for Ghana right now, if I look at the updated third place standings, Croatia is sitting at third on the eight best 8 of the 12 in the third place rankings. Ghana's second right now. And this second place team, Ghana, as it stands, if it were to end today, they would stay in Toronto, play on July 2nd. The winner of that group hosts a match in Atlanta on July 1st. So, I mean, this is definitely one of those. I know Croatia is lucky that they're not facing off against England at the final game of their group play. But England's facing off against Panama in this, which a Panama team that's still looking for their first win. So now Panama can be upset alert. They could say, we want to get the first win and we want to not try to knock England out of the round of 32, because if Ghana and Croatia tie and well, actually, I think England still is in a really good spot. If England loses by I think a minimum of 3 goals here, like 3 or more goals, then more than likely they're out. Which now I'm not saying Panama's going to do that, especially because of how low the scoring has been in the last couple of games, but it's a real possibility. So England has to actually play here for the group. But if England wins, they're even if it's just by 1 goal, I think if they win by 1 goal and Ghana doesn't win by 2 goals or more, then they take the group. But this is Croatia is fighting for their lives to get into the round of 32, which I don't think any of us going into this FIFA World Cup would have told you that, yeah, Croatia is really going to struggle getting into the elimination round, especially as you mentioned, the last two World Cups, they've been in the semifinals. I mean, 2018, they were in the final and they lost to France. So, I mean, this is very much concerning for Croatia. I know it's not the same team they've had in the last two editions, since it's been the course of 8 years ago when they had that magical run to the final out in Moscow. But it's, yeah, I'm just shocked that Ghana has been able to go this far, and credit to them. I mean, with their rankings right now, or at least heading into the tournament, 73rd in a group with 4, 11, and 34. Ghana is not to be messed with at this point.
You know what? I think this is true in all sports, but especially soccer and especially in the World Cup. Belief can go a long way. And I think Ghana, from day one, from the moment they stepped on the field against Panama, I think they had belief. Their fans had belief. I've never seen fans as passionate as the Ghana fans were during that Panama game. I mean, it was just incredible to see. And like I said, I think that energy and that excitement and passion goes so far in these games, and it makes you just play like you've never played before. And I think Ghana's kind of experiencing that, and they're finding their stride at the right time. And it's been so impressive what they've done.
Now, the other thing about the standings right now, Ghana will face off against the second place team in Group K. You know who that is right now, Drew?
CR7 and Portugal, I'm assuming.
Yeah. At least right now. Now, we'll get into it when we get into our previews, but Group K is between Colombia and Portugal in that final matchup in Miami, so a lot could change on that. But even then, if you're Ghana, it's you better hope nobody gets injured. You better hope you start your momentum strong, because you're going to need a lot against either Colombia or Portugal in this round of 32, because it is not going to be fun for those folks, whoever's facing off against each other over in Toronto on the second place side. Or, I mean, maybe they get the first place and they go to Atlanta. I mean, could happen. Who knows? But regardless, Croatia, congrats to you on at least getting a win. You kept your hopes alive, although Panama kept you on your feet. Panama, it's unfortunate. Hopefully, you get your first point ever with this matchup against England. Shock us like Ghana did. Let's just shock us like Ghana did, so we can continue to have a World Cup that's just full of upsets and gives us more stuff to talk about. Continuing on that as well, we go over to Group K, and Portugal had the bounce back that they needed. 5-0 in Houston against Uzbekistan. And believe it or not, Drew, Uzbekistan is still mathematically alive in this FIFA World Cup.
Crazy.
Now, when we say that, it's because Congo DR has 1 point, so technically they could try to take a best of third place teams, but they'd need to score a lot of goals, or some other teams would need to get blown out by a lot of goals for that to happen. But Uzbekistan is mathematically, they are not eliminated at this point, but it is still this game was just more a testament to Cristiano Ronaldo, especially with all the noise, all the talk and everything. I saw in the post-game press conferences when someone started asking about, hey, Lionel Messi scored 2 goals, he looked the other way, and he started saying, let me take your question. He said, depends on the question. I might not want to answer you, but go ahead with your question, because he did not want to hear it. And I don't blame him. I mean, I know now I will say there's a difference between like class and character and things with folks. Like Mbappe was asked the same question, and he was very frank and said, yeah, I mean, it's obvious Messi's the best one in the tournament. And he had a little more dignity and class to it. But I don't blame Ronaldo for having that kind of response, because the amount of people who skewered him in the media side for tying with Congo DR and not getting any production going in that opening game of the World Cup. But I mean, who cares? He's the only player to score in 6 different FIFA World Cups ever in either the men's or women's tournaments. And not only that, he got 2. And he almost got a hat trick multiple times, because there were so many chances with him on headers and boot-ins. If you're Uzbekistan, I mean, it's there's only so much you can do. I mean, we saw it with Saudi Arabia when you're against a Spain team that disappointed in the opening game. And I mean, especially for another team that's in their first World Cup in Uzbekistan, you hate it. You hate to see them getting blown out in a way, but like we said, Drew, if you're in single digits on the attempts on goal metric, you're not going to win. And Uzbekistan only had 7 shots on goal, 2 of them on target, where Portugal had 17 and 8 on that ratio. So there's only so much you can do, especially with this Portugal team that really needed those 3 points.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, putting Ronaldo and his success aside for a second, Portugal looked so much better in this game. They looked actually like they were trying and like wanting to score. They were possessing the
Yeah.
ball with aggression. They were creating more chances. I thought Bruno Fernandes played a lot better. I thought Nuno Mendes had that unbelievable free kick where Ronaldo kind of dummied it and let him take it on his left foot, which is obviously, if you know Nuno Mendes, has one of the most powerful left foots in all of soccer right now.
Yeah.
So it was just a great game, and Ronaldo getting, not 1 but 2 goals was so important, not only for Portugal, but for him. Obviously, he had been getting scrutinized in the media after that game with DR Congo. There were people saying that he's not good and he's washed. And obviously, Ronaldo is not the player he used to be. He's not as mobile. But I will tell you this. He knows where to be at the right time to score goals. And if you get him the ball in a goal-scoring opportunity, he will put the ball in the back of the net. He can't create like he used to, but that's what his midfielders are for. And Portugal has one of the strongest midfields in the country to me, and they played like it against Uzbekistan. Now, the real test will be in this next match with Colombia, because Colombia is a team of a lot higher ranking. They have a lot more talent everywhere on the pitch. This will be a huge test for this Portugal team, but this was kind of reminiscent of Spain against Saudi Arabia when they drew to Cabo Verde in their first one and then came out against Saudi Arabia and just dominated. That is what I saw to this Portugal team today. Ended up putting 5 in the back of the net. It was incredible, and I'm very happy for Ronaldo. I loved that he dodged the Messi question too, just because that's just not something to focus on right now. Like I finally scored my goals in this World Cup after everybody in the media was saying that I couldn't do it. I did it, and now you're going to ask me about Lionel Messi. I don't want to hear that right now. Like, I'm just trying to enjoy my success and my team's success, and I love the way he handled that. And yeah, great win for Portugal as they prepare for a final match against Colombia.
And the soccer gods will tell you that, well, we have to have Portugal and Argentina on the same side of the bracket, because if Portugal wins, they're in that same quadrant with Argentina. Now, here's the thing. If Portugal wins, they're more than likely going to face off in the round of 16 with Switzerland. So they have to get through a good Swiss team, which we'll talk about them later in their matchup today. They would have to do that, and then they would have to get to face off against Argentina, and that match would be in Kansas City. So, yes, it would be fantastic if it played out that way, but there's a lot of things that have to happen with that. I mean, there's still questions about the other second-place teams that get into the side with Argentina, which, I mean, Argentina's not looking that weak right now either. So, I mean, they might all be thinking we want to win our groups so that way we don't have to be faced off with this, but if Portugal wins, they're in that quadrant. If Portugal loses and gets to second place, they're in the same quadrant as the United States and would potentially face off against them in the quarterfinal in Los Angeles, which, again, not even that. If Colombia loses, then they would be in the same quadrant as the United States. So if you're a U.S. soccer fan, you might be shaking in your boots a little bit at whichever one of these teams that gets faced off against. Or you have to hope that the teams that are in Group H, specifically the winner of Group H, which is also between Spain, Uruguay, Cabo Verde, and Saudi Arabia, this is ending up to be a very interesting side or quadrant of the bracket, I should say. But yeah, it's for Portugal. I completely agree with you. I get Cristiano Ronaldo reacting the way he did. It's and again, I get that Mbappe had the reaction differently. I get Haaland also had the different reaction the way that he did and wasn't as dismissive of it. It's Everyone has their different way of approaching it, but obviously there was a lot more. The difference is those other names I mentioned were able to back it up and have support and scored goals, and they were not under as much scrutiny as Cristiano Ronaldo was. But he silenced the haters.
He
He
sure
got
did.
rid of all of them and made sure that they, stopped talking on that. But again, if you're Uzbekistan, first World Cup, you've scored one goal at least. That's a big accomplishment already. Like, I think every one of the first, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Drew, I think every one of the first time participating teams in this World Cup have scored a goal, which is huge.
Yes.
They've either scored a goal or scored a point. Had
Yes.
at least 1 point, so which
Yes.
is
That's right.
huge in terms of the expansion of the tournament. But for Uzbekistan, it's just they even though they had the benefit of an indoor stadium that was climate controlled, there was not much they were going to do against Portugal, especially with the hefty amount of pressure they had to perform in game 2.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this Portugal team, it's similar to what I said about I feel bad for the team Spain has to play next because they're mad that they drew that Cabo Verde game. Same thing here. Portugal was mad, and I think they had a little extra pressure on them because of the whole Ronaldo situation. So I felt bad for this Uzbekistan team. They really did not stand a chance in this one against a hungry Portugal team that looked finally like the Portugal that we expected them to look like in that first game. And yeah, I mean, I think it was important also for, Messi breaking that record for most World Cup goals of all time. Well, Ronaldo said, I'll break my own record. I'll be the first player to ever score in 6 different World Cups, which is incredible. So, yeah, I mean, time will tell with this Portugal team. Their real test will be Colombia
Yeah.
on Friday. So
I'm still waiting for approval on Tribune tickets for that one, by the way. Which that
Miami.
one's that one's in Miami at Hard Rock Stadium, which as far as I'm aware, the press box is indoors, but the hot humidity of of late June, early July in Florida is not in the remainder of that stadium. So that's a trade off I am willing to enjoy. But
Absolutely.
congratulations to Portugal on that one. Colombia, Congo, DR. The Democratic Republic of the Congo continues to shock everybody in this tournament, just like Cabo Verde. Tie 1-1 with Portugal to start off, and they only lost by a score of 1-0 to Colombia. And yeah, here's what I said. There's a big difference in that it is not like Panama where they have lost both of their games, and I would be saying the same thing of, oh, this Congo DR team is tough. They just can't get the job done. They had a lot of chances of things, but I tell you, Impasi, the goaltending on this man, like that was one of the best clinics I've ever seen, and I feel bad that in the 76th minute there was that one shot that was ripped past him that got into the net that he just could not react to, but the man had 9 on-target shots that he had to face throughout the game. 20 total attempts on goal that he still had to fend off and still make saves and weave around for. And his offense just wasn't helping him. I mean, they possessed the ball 37% of the time. I mean, they had one less corner kick opportunity than Colombia, so the defense was at least doing a little bit of their job on not creating too many set-piece opportunities on 5-4, but this was just and another stat line for you. Congo DR had 7 indirect free kicks. Colombia had 0. Colombia had 16 direct free kicks. Congo DR had 12. So
Mm.
it's not like you had any shortage of chances to be able to start plays from advantages given, but Congo DR just their goaltender was the only reason this game did not go to a blowout scoreline like we had talked about on a little bit earlier on the podcast. But this Colombia team continues to impress. I mean, they only against Uzbekistan they conceded a goal, but conceding 1 goal in 2 matches and putting up 3 total between the two. Like we've said, it's showing up. It's basically going to make it to where anyone who shows up in Miami for the showdown for Group K is going to be treated between these two teams. At least we hope. Let's hope it's not a one-sided blowout. But this is I hate it for Congo DR, but they're still mathematically alive. Because of that 1 point tie with Portugal, so they've at least still got a chance to get into the round of 32. But tough loss for them, especially when they could have tied it against Colombia.
Yeah, I think DR Congo is out to prove that Portugal game wasn't a fluke and that they were really meant to draw that game. And they played similarly to how they played that Portugal team against Colombia. And I think that they were just right there, but they made a few, kind of key mistakes. I think they let Colombia's midfield possess the ball too openly and too freely there. I think they didn't have enough people closing in and limiting the number of chances that Colombia had. Like you said, 20 shots, 9 on target is so much for a goalkeeper to deal with. So credit to DR Congo backline and goalkeeper for not having more goals allowed. I think it was really important, although Colombia got the 3 points, that they kept it to 1-0. I think that that's going to be huge for them if they can get a result against Uzbekistan, which I think they will. I think that will be a huge level of confidence and the goal difference. I think that will for sure advance them to the round of 32 if they get a win against Uzbekistan, because that'll put them at 4 points. But Colombia's side, I loved the way their midfield played. James Rodriguez, Quintero. I love the way that they kind of bossed that midfield. And obviously the goal by Daniel Munoz there in the 76th minute. I think it was deserved. I think Colombia, like you said, they outpossessed them by a pretty significant margin and created more chances. And usually when that happens, the team with the more chances and the more possession wins. So credit to Colombia. They have a showdown with Portugal in that round 3 game, and they're going to be looking to win this group.
Congo DR sits at 10th on the rankings of the third place teams right now, which they are behind Belgium, who's got 2 points. Again, it's shocker to think that Belgium has 2 points in this tournament only. Cabo Verde also has 2, and they're sitting at 8th. Scotland has 3, which more than likely So basically what it tells me, especially with how we'll talk about it because the match is finalized, but the score to beat right now is 3 because Scotland, unless Cabo Verde collapses and loses and Belgium loses, as well as you got Congo DR, Ecuador, and Senegal, there's still a mathematical chance Scotland could get in.
Yeah.
But it's right now, it's at least the first team that gets to 4 points clinches their spot in the round at 32 is what that basically translates out to right now because of this result. And Congo DR is looking in a very, very good position to put themselves in there, even though they have a 1-1 loss. And I know everybody will tell you from not just the fan base with this Congo DR team that they would have rather had the point to put themselves in an even better situation on 2, but it's sometimes that's the way it goes. So congrats to Colombia on that W. As we've been mentioning, it's this showdown in Miami over on the Panhandle where Colombia and Portugal will fight to either be in the same quadrant as Messi or the losers will be in the same quadrant as the United States. All right, let's get into the matches that happened today. We are in 6 games a day for the next several days. So we got a lot of football going on. And fortunately, all of those games it's 2-2-2. I'm so lucky in that the hotel I'm staying at, usually I have an Amazon Fire TV stick where I get out YouTube TV to do these split screens. They had DirecTV, and it actually had a preset channel it was called World Cup Experience, where it had split screens for Fox Sports and Fox Sports 1. Which it's a miracle that it usually happens that way. But normally I have YouTube TV, so I don't have to worry about that sort of thing. But I was able to witness all the games today, and Scotland fell to Brazil by a crushing defeat. I would have liked this Scotland team to actually score a goal or two to help with their goal differential side. Certainly I would have loved for it to be a tie as well because that would have helped. But I think it is so tough when Vinicius Jr. is on a different level. He could have also gotten a hat trick. Matthias also managed to score a goal in the 60th minute, and there just really was not much that the Scotland team was doing. I mean, ball possession was around even. Brazil just had an extra 7 total attempts on goal, 21-14, had 8 of them on target compared to Scotland's 5. Surprisingly, both of these teams had the same amount of corners opportunities at 6, but this is another example of where you have one of these top-tier teams that's expected to do well, and they perform, and that's what Brazil did against Scotland today.
Yeah, I think that Brazil's finally coming into their own. I think Vinny Jr. is one of the best players in the world right now, and he's showing that. He's got 4 goals through the group stage so far, and he is looking more and more impressive as this World Cup campaign continues. But I noticed that Scotland just played sloppy at the back in some, especially on that first goal. I don't know what the center back was doing, just giving the ball away and an easy pass to Vinny Jr. to go around the keeper. I don't know what their back line was doing. It looked like a lot of miscommunication with the 4 and the goalkeeper, but unfortunate for Scotland. Nobody really expected them to win this game, and honestly, nobody really expected them to beat Morocco either. It was kind of just like, get a result against Haiti and don't get killed by Brazil and Morocco to advance to the round of 32. And giving up 3 goals is pretty unfortunate for if you're Scotland, but it's Brazil at the end of the day. I think Brazil is, they're Brazil. They're, that name runs deep and thick through soccer and football history. So it's going to be really interesting to see one who Brazil will match up with, because I'm pretty sure, if I'm correct, they do not have an easy draw in the round of 32, because they're going to play one of the Netherlands or Japan if things go accordingly in Group F play. So that's going to be really interesting and really something we need to keep our eye on.
As it stands right now, because Brazil winning the group, they host a match in Houston on Monday. Yeah, they could very well, because Group F is still wide open as well. They're either going to face off against, could be the Netherlands, could be Japan, or it could be Sweden. So it could be one of those 3 teams, which Brazil doesn't have an easy draw on that. And there is a scenario where Mexico could face off against Brazil in the quarterfinals with the way the bracket is played out as well. And that match would be in Miami. So you can bet the amount of folks who would show up for that one as it comes down to a quarterfinal on there. I agree. Scotland was just very much not informed today, especially after you could argue it was against a Haiti team that really did not have anything in this tournament, really did not have any great performances or anything that would have helped them to match up against the rest of the teams in their respective group. I think Scotland was the only chance they could have had to escape with points in this group, because Morocco and Brazil are just tremendous in their own outrights. But I do think that at least for Scotland, I guess there's some solace that they have some hope to get forward, but there's still a lot of stuff that has to happen in their favor in order to stay alive. But for all intents and purposes, they're unfortunately eliminated, but not mathematically yet. But even if they somehow manage to get into the round of 32, I don't know if they're going anywhere in the round of 32, because regardless of whichever of these teams they face off against, it's just not going to be an ideal scenario for them.
They'll get
Yeah, it's possible, but I think Vinicius Jr., as long as he's playing on that level and continues to use that momentum going into this knockout stage, I mean, I think he'll be just fine, and Brazil will be just fine. But it's not that there are any question marks for me. It's just a matter of, is Vinicius Jr. enough to get him to that next level? He certainly looked like it today. There wasn't any questions about that. But is it enough when you get against a Mexico, or you get against potentially Argentina in the semifinal, or it looks like whoever wins Group L? I mean, it could be England. Will that be enough against an England team with Harry Kane and the other weapons that they have? I mean, I don't. Now, I will say there is that quarterfinal scenario where it could be in Miami, and there's the joke that Stu Holden made about the English are going to melt, because their first match on July 1st is in Atlanta. It's in climate control. But if they win that, they're at Mexico City Stadium 4 days later in an outdoor mile above sea level elevation and the heat beating down. And then 6 days later, they're in Miami. They're back in Miami for a quarterfinal before if they get to the semifinal, then it's in an indoor stadium, and that kind of helps them. They're back in Atlanta, but it's a tough path for England. Brazil is used to that because pretty much all their stadiums are outdoors. Same with Mexico. So it's interesting stuff as we get down the stretch here in the final games of group play. But regardless, congratulations to Brazil. They managed to get it done. They won the group by that result, and they will play a game indoors in Houston in about 4 to 5 days' time. Continuing along on that, Morocco beat Haiti 4-2 to try and clinch the top title in the group. Scotland was trying to fight to win against Brazil as well. But Morocco put up a good performance. They are the second place team in Group C, and that puts them in the same quadrant of the bracket as Germany and Canada so far, those who have finalized on that section, which I will say there could be a matchup between Morocco and Canada in Houston if it plays out that way. But regardless, to talk about this match, pretty close, all things considered. I mean, 2-1 going into the half. Isidore Wilson at the 43-minute mark found the equalizer, and it was just a couple of minutes later in extra time that Ismail Saibari managed to make it 2-1. And then, actually, I beg your pardon. So it was 2-0, or it was 2-2. Oh, let me make sure I got the timeline right here. Own goal at 10 minutes by Yassine Bonyo, which made it 1-0 for Haiti. Then it was 1-1 Morocco, and then 2-1 in favor of Haiti. And then going into the locker room, it was tied 2-2. Almost missed that. It's weird when I'm looking at the PDF. There's that little circle with an X on it to indicate an own goal instead of the actual full-on soccer balls. So, but tied 2-2 going into the half. There were a lot of conversations, or probably a lot of yelling that Coach Mohammed had with Morocco in the locker room, because you're down 2-2 against a Haitian team that's mathematically eliminated from the tournament. You allow an own goal, and you finally find an equalizer, but that really shifted the momentum of this one. I don't even want to say it was a tale of two halves, Drew, because it just, second half, it looked like Morocco was better, and there was just more competition in the first half, which, funny enough, in a lot of the matches we've seen in the World Cup so far, it's been the other way around, where the first half has had nothing, and then the second half has just been completely turned around with offensive production. For this Haiti team, they didn't really have a lot of offensive production, 33% of the ball possessed, 8 attempts on goal, 2 on target, 1 corner kick throughout the game too. And also, Morocco did not get booked once. Haiti got booked 3 times. So they were really just saying, you know what? Who cares? We're not going anywhere. Let's just get some yellow cards and be a lot more physical in this game. But Morocco outshot them, 23 attempts total, 11 of them on target. So there was only so much their goaltender could do. But Haiti, if they had kept that momentum down at 2-1 and not allowed that goal heading into the locker room, certainly would have been a different story.
Yeah, I think, first of all, Morocco kind of disappointed people in that first half. I think they didn't play up to par, even though they scored 2 goals. But giving up 2 to a Haiti team that, hadn't scored so far in this tournament is pretty disappointing, especially for a back line that many consider to be one of the best in the entire world in Morocco's defense. So good for them to battle back there in that second half, score 2 goals, and get that 4-2 win. It was a lot of goals in this game. It actually set the record for this World Cup in most goals in the first half of a match so far. We hadn't seen 4 goals in the first half of a match so far. We got that with this game, but unbelievable if you're Haiti that you're able to score those 2 goals. And the second goal they scored, Isidore, probably one of the goals of the tournament. I mean, it was an absolute wonder strike from like 35, 40 yards out. Just a screamer. Nothing the Moroccan goalkeeper could do about it. Just a beautiful shot, something that you hardly ever see in the game. And it was just unbelievable. But Great by Saibari. I know he's got 3 goals from, his group stage play so far and, his time at, with Morocco, so he was able to equalize there, get it to 2-2 at half, and like you said, I bet, the Moroccan head coach had a lot to say at halftime and really fired his guys up, and they came out and did what they were supposed to do in that second half, and it wasn't pretty, it wasn't clean, but they got the job done at the end, and, they will be happy, with who they face. Well, actually, I lied. They won't be happy with who they face because it's gonna be one of the Netherlands or Japan, most likely. I don't wanna discredit Sweden, but
Mhm.
yeah, they have a lot of, tough battles ahead.
Yeah, of course, my colleague, Magda from, Morocco, who covers the team and was with us in, Chile this past fall. We were talking, of course, about the Morocco side of things, and I gave him the, clinching scenario. So if the Netherlands win, they face off against Morocco in
Yes.
Monterrey.
Yes.
If Japan wins and the Netherlands lose, unless there's a huge swing in yellow and red cards, because the goal differential is around the same metric on that aspect, then it's Japan Morocco. But if Sweden wins and the Netherlands lose, then it's Morocco Sweden in that section of the quarterfinal. So a lot of these question marks about how is this stuff going to go down, where are these pieces going to go, but we'll figure it out when they get into their final section of Group A. But like I said, there could be a matchup in Houston between Canada and Morocco if things play out. But Germany is on the top side of that quadrant and is probably waiting for any of them in Boston, depending on how this stuff plays out. But granted, Germany also has to get through the top team in Group I, which could be France, could be Norway at this point, which it's just whoever the teams that are in that section are not necessarily happy with the draw, but
No.
the rest of them, they just play it the way that they can. But last thing I will say on this matchup, I mean, congratulations to Haiti on especially on their sort of run. I mean, I know that they didn't get a goal in the first 2 matches, but for them to score 2 and be tied with Morocco at the half, still pretty impressive, especially with this being just their second World Cup. I know they're still hoping that they can have a lot better performance going forward, but hopefully Haiti has a better showing if they could qualify for 2030. But even though they were top of their group in CONCACAF, their journey comes to an end in Atlanta, and Morocco is moving on to the round of 32. All right, we'll get into the next one where it was quite literally a sea of red in Vancouver because both of these teams have red on their respective flags. Switzerland takes their respective group over Canada in that showdown. That actually reminds me. I need to make sure I read through our text of the predictions that both of us made. So in Morocco, Haiti, I said the score was going to be 4-0. So I was right on the amount of goals Morocco was going to score. But when 4-0, you said 3-0 on Morocco, Haiti. So I mean, we're not doing goals specifically, but
No.
we were both right on that one. Brazil, Scotland, I said 3. We both said 3-1. So we were kind of close on
Close.
that. We thought Scotland would maybe get a goal on that sort of aspect. And then this next one, so Switzerland beat Canada 2-1. I got the score right. I didn't get the team right. I said that Canada was going to win 2-1. And you actually predicted this was going to go to a tie 2-2. Um,
Yes.
Very,
Could've.
and I really thought if it had gone to tie, I thought this Canadian crowd was going to get into it, but they didn't have much to get into until
Yeah.
Canada found found a goal to cut the lead in half. I mean, Ruben Vargas just. Now, this was one of those games of a tale of two halves, where all we had was a yellow card at the 32nd minute for to go with Kyle Larin and Granit Xhaka, and then not even 90 seconds into the second half, Ruben Vargas just tears through that defensive line like they weren't even prepared for an attack, which I guess that there was some of the times my coach in soccer had said, hey, we need to make sure we pressure right out of the halftime. I had one time in indoor soccer where I was getting pelted and pelted with shots that I was just so dehydrated and exhausted. The other team kicked one from the kickoff directly at me, and my stupid, dehydrated brain tried to stick my leg out to block it, and it went into the back of the net instead of body blocking it. Needless to say, my coach finally said, all right, he's had enough, and he pulled me to the bench, and I'm like, you're good, man. I'm just exhausted because we can't do anything against this team. But so it almost felt like that, even though it wasn't directly ripped from the center circle. And then within 11 minutes, Johan Manzambi finding it 2-0. I mean, David Promise made things interesting in the 76th minute, and Canada was trying at the end. They were pressuring in those final minutes with what was it, about 20? Yeah, about 20 minutes with the 6 minutes of additional time, and they just kept pressuring, and it makes sense that they outshot Switzerland 13-6 and on target 7-4, especially because a lot of those opportunities were generated in the last couple of minutes where they were trying to find the equalizer and were hoping to be content with escaping with just a point here. Now, I think with the results, if they had tied with Switzerland, I think Switzerland would have won the group, if I'm not mistaken. Both teams were going to qualify anyway, regardless of the result. But this was a great match to watch, especially considering the challenges that both these teams had in their openers, with Qatar, Switzerland ending in a tie, as well as Canada and Bosnia-Herzegovina ending in a tie. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better matchup.
Yeah, I mean, the Sea of Red, they all came out today, and it was electric. I mean, it really was a great game in that first half. Even though we didn't see much action, it was still like a lot of chances back and forth. I mean, they had some that were right there at their feet. Both teams had easy shots that they just missed. It was either a keeper save or just a striker error. You really never know with that kind of stuff, but it was a great game to watch. I think Switzerland were just more efficient with their chances in the final third than Canada was. And if you're a Canada fan, like, you are thinking, why didn't we play like the last 20 minutes for the entire 90 minutes? I mean, Canada was on fire those last 20 minutes, and they actually did get a goal. And then they were trying to rally their crowd. The head coach was pumping up the fans, trying to get anything, desperation to get that last goal to even it out. Because I actually do think, and I could be wrong, you had said it was the other way around, but I think if they had drawn that game simply on goal difference, they would have won the group, because they scored those 6 goals against Qatar
Yeah.
in their second game. So this was a frustrating result if you're Canada, because you really wanted a draw. But if you're the Swiss, you're very pleased. You played great. They kind of their captain, Granit Xhaka, Canada kind of eliminated him for a lot of that second half, kind of had a man marking him at all times, kind of took him out of the game. And that really hurt Switzerland. I mean, that you could tell Canada was just so dominant the last 20, 25 minutes of that game. And it's because Xhaka, the Swiss captain, wasn't involved. So they're going to have to look. Teams are going to see that, and teams are going to know Xhaka is how they, are able to possess and how they're able to control the ball. And if they look to take him away, it's going to be really challenging for the Swiss in the round of 32. But yeah, it was a great performance for them, and unfortunate for Canada, but they'll be ready against, I believe they play now, South Africa. So yeah.
Yeah, that match is finalized, and you're actually right. I just looked back at the goal differential. It would have been Canada would have been a +6, Switzerland a +4. So if they did just held on to a tie, then it would have been not only that, Canada would have stayed in Vancouver. The other thing, that there's a couple of media folks who are reporting on the frustrations of it, where it could have been made that either of these teams in Group B had stayed in Canada. And now you have Canada having to travel down to Los Angeles, and they are not going back to Toronto in any way, shape, or form for their matches with how this tournament bracket was structured. And there were a lot of folks in the Canadian media who were very frustrated about this and saying that, why didn't you just make it to where second place in Group B went back to Toronto at least for a match or two, So that part has to be especially frustrating, because I texted a buddy of mine. He still hadn't responded to me. He was up in Canada. I said, no, I don't think unless you are very well off in Canada, I do not think there's really any Canadian fans that go all the way down to Los Angeles for their matchup. I just don't, because it's too expensive down there to really make anything. Now I might because the match there's another match the next day in Los Angeles, and obviously I'm here right now for USA Turkey A, but I know I won't go to that match because it's on the same weekend as the NSMA, but like I go back out here because I'm media, but in terms of fans and trying to go to that matchup, not just the flights getting down to Los Angeles, but the hotels and transit and food and all that kind of cost stuff, people would have wanted to stay in Canada. Like the Vancouver fans would have showed out. Not only that, it's with this knockout phase. Let me make sure. That's right. Okay, it's not finalized yet, unless they haven't updated it here on the bracket, or at least I think it is South Africa. I think it hasn't refreshed. They haven't punched it in yet. Because the other big question that was going to come on that stuff with the tiebreakers is that it could have been South Korea that faced off against them, which there is a very populous fan base of a very populous, not just fan base or people who have come over from South Korea that are in the Los Angeles area. So it would have been a very much a sea of, Korean fans compared to those of Canada. So I'm going to be interested to see when we watch this match on Sunday on what the split is of the crowd and if there are that many Canadian folks who do come down to Los Angeles to watch that matchup. But this is Canada, South Africa. I mean, wow. If you would have told me these two teams would have been faced off, or that even South Africa was going to make it to the round of 32, I would not have believed you. But regardless, congratulations to Switzerland. They await their opponent, which is going to be one of the third place teams, but they will host them in Vancouver on July 2nd, so they also get a couple days extra rest because of that. And as mentioned, Canada, it will face off against South Africa and may have a match with Morocco on Independence Day in Houston. All right. Bosnia and Herzegovina against Qatar, which, let's be honest here, Bosnia, all the predictions right now and all the calculations are saying that the United States, this is the team that they are going to face off against in the round of 32. And they are the first team to actually clinch a third place spot.
Yes.
No other teams have clinched that top 8 side, but Bosnia and Herzegovina has done that, and they're just waiting to see where they go, but more than likely it's going to be to the San Francisco Bay Area. And what a way for them to do that, too. 29 minutes in, Karim with a goal to set the tone. Another own goal by this Qatari team when it seems like every let me make sure I have this right. I'm pretty sure it's every game that they played in there has been an own goal involved. So 2 straight that they committed an own goal, and then that tie against Switzerland, the Swiss had an own goal. Mm-hmm. which made them lucky enough to where they weren't eliminated in the second game after that blowout loss to Canada. But this is tough. I mean, they already did not have that great of a showing when they hosted the tournament 4 years ago. But this just adds on to the higher wear on anyone who is a fan of this team or any of the Qatari nation who is hoping that there's something to build off of. I know their coach said that they feel like they're going to be able to build off of some things and be able to have a better team potentially going forward, as have several of the other teams in this tournament. But I tell you, this is a tough performance for Qatar, but for Bosnia, they clinched their ticket to the round of 32 with Karim scoring a goal, Ermin also scoring one in the 80th minute to really solidify everything, especially because at that point it was 2-1 and it was starting to get close, and they just, punched their ticket, and more than likely they're off to the San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah, I think Bosnia needed this win. They knew the stakes at this point, and they knew if they were able to get 3 points here that they were going to advance. And huge win. I think it was a very dominant win. There was a little time in that game where Qatar kind of made a push. Akram Afif for Qatar is a really, really great player. I've watched him in all 3 games, and he has really impressed me. And this Qatar team really has evolved from their host them hosting the World Cup in 2022, because if you remember, they didn't get 1 goal. in that World Cup. And they may have gotten like a goal, but it was like a penalty or something. They played significantly better in this World Cup, and I think that they should be proud of that. They got a pretty, not the toughest of draws, but teams that were all significantly pretty much better than them, and they were able to draw with the group winners, which I think is extremely impressive. But yeah, great win for Bosnia. I think they were didn't really let Qatar hang around for that long, and yeah, they'll await to see who they play, and if it's the United States, that's going to be a really interesting one.
The fact that we are really not talking that much about Edin Dzeko and Tariq
Yeah, yeah.
Mlademovic in this tournament for Bosnia Herzegovina, they haven't really shown up yet throughout these 3 games. Hopefully, they will. We'll see. We'll see if they do anything. But the fact that we haven't really said anything about them at this point shows how kind of deep this Bosnia team is a little bit. And that certainly, if you're a United States fan, you hope that this is not a Cinderella run in the working for Bosnia. But it'll be tough. It'll be tough for any team to win in the San Francisco Bay Area when it comes down to all that fandom and everything. So, but congratulations to Bosnia. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, let's see. I will give Qatar credit as well. They did. They have slowly improved their attempts on goal. It was 14-9 in favor of Bosnia. 5-3, same metric except on target shots. Both teams had 5 corners, and it looks like for the most part it was around pretty even on the ball possession side. And like you mentioned for Qatar, I mean, they're just trying to build off of what they started their national team with hosting the tournament 4 years ago. So trying to build off of stuff. I mean, it's tough to see this at this point, but at least for them to get a tie and get add on to that metric, I think I think if I'm not mistaken, they did not score a single goal or even get a single point in their when they hosted the tournament a couple of years ago. Let's
Mhm.
see, Qatar men's national team 2022. Trying to make sure they were the first team to be eliminated in that tournament. So that's always great when you see that to start out in the FIFA World Cup. Okay, so they did not. Okay, so 2022, yes, they did not have a single win. So yeah, they accomplished at least something that they got out of it. They accomplished getting their first point ever in World Cup history, and granted, that was because the Swiss had an own goal. So it's you could put that asterisk on it, but they don't care. It'll be at least a point for them and such. So I mean, but I tell you, this Bosnia and Herzegovina, the kind of shocker of one of the third place teams to come out of this group too, when a lot of folks were thinking that it would just be Switzerland and probably Canada escaping to get into this round of 32.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those we talked about this kind of leading up to the World Cup that Group B was one of those that didn't really have a definitive, great team. And I think that showed a lot. And I think if you're Bosnia, you're pleased that you were at least able to get a result against Canada, and you expected to beat a team like Qatar. They're a very much weaker team than the other two. And yeah, I mean, just really happy for them, and it's a good group, and yeah.
Well, perfect timing as we finish up on the Bosnia and Qatar matchup. We get to recap this Group A competition that pretty much sealed Mexico, one of the host nations, to win their group outright, even though they kind of already won at that point, but to send one of their other teams in the group to an elimination side. So joining us now are pretty much a local, I say a local of the podcast, but one of our good friends on here, Etienne Castillo Hernandez. Etienne, always good to see you. And I know T-Bull mentioned earlier on the show that he loves talking to us because he gets to have it as a win for his national team, and France did well. So I'm sure you have the same sentiment after the great performance that was shown in Mexico City Stadium against Czechia.
First of all, thank you, Spencer. Thank you, Drew, to the invitation. Well, yes, I'm really happy for my country. I'm really happy because I could see not only a victory, a good match from the Mexican national team. And well, this maybe it's the best performance with Javier Aguirre since he has taken the national team.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think that coming into this game, Mexico had already clinched Group A, so they really did not have to play full strength and really use up all their energy. But I think this is what this team needed because I wasn't truly convinced on this Mexico team after their first two matches. Even though they won both games, I wasn't fully, that wasn't the belief of me, of them making a deep run wasn't fully there for me. This game is what they needed. I think they played more together. I think they played a complete, a complete game. I think there was never really a moment where they showed weakness. And yeah, they scored more goals than they have the entire World Cup. So really impressed with Mexico and a game where they didn't have to use all their energy, but still did get a 3-0 win.
And
You know,
everything is because the context, the background of this match. Because in the first match, okay, it's the opening day. Maybe the nervous could play in the first match. Then South Korea could be the greatest rival in this group. And for that reason, you don't want to take a risk. But now you could see during the match the players were more comfortable, and you could see how they could take the ball, pass the ball, creating combinations. This is the real level of this Mexico's national team. This is what this is everything that all the journalists and the specialists were expecting for this team.
yeah, I could not agree with you more about a complete performance. When you only allow one shot on target from Czechia, it's not just a testament to the defense doing their part. It's also a testament to this Mexico middle line that's also keeping the ball in transition outside of your end of the pitch and keeping it on the other side. And, it amazes me how I think this is the first match in the tournament I've seen so far, Drew, where the ball possession was dead even. 50% for both sides. And even with that, Mexico was outshot 13-11 in general in terms of attempts on goal. And also, I know it's a complete performance, but Mexico committed more fouls, 13-9, than Czechia did. So not the cleanest of games. And surprisingly, they only got one yellow card throughout all of that, throughout all the difference on that kind of side. But this is, and you mentioned at ETN where there were these questions in the beginning of the tournament where, okay, maybe there's some problems here. Maybe it's just what is the tone going to be? And a lot of the media in the United States even has made it out to where it's kind of a good or bad thing that Mexico has stayed at stadiums in Mexico, because their fear was that if there's even a loss, just one loss in this entire group stage, the fans and the nation could turn their back on them, could turn on a dime and just be very frustrated with the national team. And I know the conversation leading into Team USA's match against Turkey is not necessarily this of the nation going against it, but this question of, is there really a desire to win the third game when you've clinched the group? And a lot of U.S. media has talked about this idea of we need to keep the momentum going. Alexi Lawless phrased it as get greedy and try to win the group completely in dominance with 9 points. And, that's what Mexico did. And based on what you're saying, it seems to me like this Mexico team did not even consider the possibility of, well, we don't have to play our starters because we've already won the group. It was a matter of, let's put on a good show for our fans in Mexico City and let's show them something to believe in, which has been a struggle in the last couple of decades.
Well, I understood one thing. Maybe Javier Aguirre didn't play to convince the people during the first matches. He played to only to win. He was so effective. He was so efficient. Well, for that reason, maybe we didn't see the best performance of this national team. Now, well, you don't have the pressure over the team. Well, you can play different. You can play more free in the pitch. Maybe for that reason, tonight we could see a different game. Well, you said about the fouls, about the touches in the pitch. Maybe it's the rival Javier Aguirre. It's playing according with the team who is in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah. Couldn't agree. Couldn't agree more with that. I think that they're yeah, I mean, I love Javier Aguirre. I love that you know, how his personality is on that sideline, and I think you hit it on the nail right there. I think that, you know, play who's in front of you. You know, we don't want to, you know, don't deal with the outside distractions and the worry about, well, you already clinched the group, so are you going to play? I think, yeah, like you said, play who's in front of you, and Mexico did that, and they had tremendous success in this group stage.
The other thing I will say about this, Mexico, obviously they clinched the group, and is a great match with them against Czechia, especially in a shutout, and great as well for especially how the first matches go out. How about Raul Rangel getting a clean sheet? And that
Oh,
I know they substituted him out in the 78th minute to give him a little more rest things and to give Guillermo Ochoa a little bit of action down the stretch. But I mean, in essence, Rangel got a clean sheet, and I mean that's got to be great for him and his motivation going into it. But the big thing I want to ask you, ETN, and I know we're late. We'll get into like predictions and things later on when we get closer to the elimination stage, at least for Drew and I. But Mexico, in this round of third, because of them winning the group, they've got a third place team, but they play in Mexico City. If they win, their round of 16 matchup is in Mexico City. And then if they continue to win there, their quarterfinal is in Miami. So not only, and we were just talking about this with the Canada matchup of if they had won the group, they would have stayed in Canada for a little bit. And now, because they're second place, they are in the United States for the remainder of the elimination games they're in. But I have to think that this is a best case scenario for Team Mexico in that not only do they get to stay for two more matches in Mexico City, but they also, in the quarterfinal, get to go to a city that has a very large population of folks from Mexico or in the Hispanic Latino community. So I have to think that that it is a very favorable next couple of games in terms of potential fans heading out to see Team Mexico move on in this World Cup.
of course. Well, you know, United States is the second house of Mexico's national team because a lot of Mexican people is living in United States. And now, if you are going to play in one area with a lot of Mexicans, with a lot of people from Latin America, you will play as a home. You will play as Estadio Azteca. It's so similar the place because well you will have the support of the people. Obviously, it's the best scenario for this team.
Yeah, and it's they've got a little bit of extra rest to go along with that as well. They have about 5 to 6 days before they have their round of 32 matchup against whichever third place team they're going to face off against. Last thing I'll ask you, ETN, is there a third place team that you think Mexico would not want to face in the round of 32?
Sorry.
In terms of the potential teams that are third place for opponents against Mexico, do you think there's a team that would be less desirable than another?
I will say Green Cave, Cabo Verde, because I don't want to face against the Bociña, the goalkeeper
Yeah.
from this team. No, but well, to be honest, I don't want to get a match against Spain, against Uruguay, because they are so powerful. Maybe in the finals, in the finals games, they know how to play these kind of matches. Okay, that will be the worst rival.
Well, fortunately for you, the only way Spain would potentially face off against Mexico or be in your side of the bracket is if they're a third place team. Because as it stands right now, if they win, they would be in the same section as the United States in that section. If they're second, if Spain is second in their group, they face off against Argentina in the round of 32.
Ooh,
So
nice match.
yeah, it'd be a great match for the round of 32. Our buddy Yzma would not be happy with that, but it's you don't have to worry about anything with Spain at least. Drew, I know he said Cabo Verde. I don't think anybody would want to face off against them in the round of 32 with how lucky they've been, but you think there are any other teams that would be a sort of mismatch from Team Mexico?
You know, that's tough. I do think that if I look at the bracket and I see that obviously well, now it's not showing me what I just was looking at like 2 seconds ago. But I don't know. I think that Mexico's going to be ready. I love that they're playing in Mexico. I don't think that there is necessarily a team that they are scared of at this point. And I think that 3-0 win kind of propelled them into that mindset. But yeah, I mean, I don't know why my just decided not to work anymore. I was literally looking at it, the matchups, and it like just went away. But yeah, I think that they'll be ready regardless.
Yeah, so it'd be a third place group team. It's C, E, F, H, or I. So we'll just say Scotland's not getting in there unless there's a
I didn't.
miracle that they somehow get there. Group E, you've got Germany, Ivory Coast, Ecuador, which Germany's already clinched the group, so it could be between between Ecuador or Ivory Coast or excuse me, who's the other one who is in that group?
Curacao.
Yeah, technically Curacao, especially because they're another one of those that are in the questionable side of things. There,
I think that Sweden might possibly cause them some trouble.
Yes,
Group
that's
F.
the other thing I was
That
about to
will
get
be
into is
again-
that could be Sweden, could be Japan, could be Netherlands, because that Group F is still wide open. And you've technically got, or Uruguay could also get to a third place spot there against Mexico. And then the last one you have on there is, Group I, which a third place team, likely France is going to win that group. So it could be between Norway or Senegal. So a lot of those teams, I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, ETN, but there's a lot of teams there that you'd rather see them chew on and go somewhere else.
Well, this will be the real World Cup, because the last World Cup was with 32 teams. Right now we are going to take these 32 places in the final matches. This will be the real World Cup.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I think that's the sentiment a lot of people have given in that even with the expanded tournaments, like, wait, we're down to 32. So this is kind of the same thing, but it's just win or go home, basically, at the end of those matches. But congratulations to Team Mexico. They have the momentum. They've won all of their group stage matches. Czechia also got eliminated with this competition. They needed a lot of help to get into the round of 32 anyways, if they had somehow beaten Mexico. But for Czechia, they get sent home earlier than they wanted to. ETN, my friend, always good to bring you in. I'm sure we're going to talk after this round of 32 matchup with Mexico, and hopefully the streak continues for just like it has with T-Bowl, where anytime you join us, it's a glorious victory. Sound good?
Of course, of course. I'm. It's a glad. I'm glad to be here talk with you. Well, I hope that Mexico's national team is still going on in this tournament. I hope the best of the wishes with this team. Obviously, I will criticize the team when it's necessary, but bah, at the end is the passion of a country, and I cannot be against my people.
Absolutely not. But appreciate you, ETN. We'll see you next time. All right.
Thank you, Drew. Thank you, Spencer. See you.
It's ETN, one of our good buddies, joining us for the podcast. All right, we got our final matchup. We get to recap in this other Group A competition between South Africa and the Korea Republic, which this sent South Africa to the round of 32. Drew, you and I were texting about this one and going, what in the world is going on?
This
is definitely one of those shockers of the tournament. I mean, we've been talking about this entire time about how South Africa, they had lost to Mexico in the opener. We're like, okay, they're dead in the water. This probably isn't going to make that much of a difference for them. And then they tie with Czechia, which kept both teams alive, by the way, because if South Africa had managed to win this one, they would be at 6 points and would have already basically clinched the group at that point. Or no, I beg your pardon. They would have been at 3 points, and it would have been a face-off with Korea Republic for getting into the next round, and it would have been probably a little more pressure on both teams, and maybe Korea Republic would have done better. But regardless, 1-0, very much a soccer game you'll love to see. Nothing happened in the first half, really. It was just not one of those interesting first halves, especially for those who don't like soccer. For those who don't like soccer or football outside, we appreciate you listening to us. But this is one of those games, if you watched it, you would realize, why am I watching it? And probably would have turned it off after the first half. But Korea Republic made 3 substitutions at halftime, including their captain, their Son Heung-min came in for the actual captain, Kim Min-jae, and it didn't make a difference. Like, even the 4 substitutions, I beg your pardon, 3 in captain swap among those. The 3 subs didn't make a difference. I mean, Tapelo Maseko, great shot, great setup opportunity, and was just incredible to get it in the back of the net at the 63-minute mark, and they outshot Korea Republic. This Korea Republic team was just so conservative for me, Drew. Like, they were not putting the pressure on really at all. They were not playing down low like they should have. Even when they were down 1-0, they were not trying to take it to a higher level. But for Korea Republic, they are very thankful right now that they're only sitting at a -1 goal differential and they're at 3 points, because as it stands, they are 4th, which is pretty good on the top 8 metric to try and get into the round of 32. But there's a lot of other teams that have to play their group stage games for them to get in. But I can tell you that this is a Korea Republic team, especially when we talked about it on other recaps of their games and previews of how they are so prideful, and this had to be absolutely crushing for Korea after this shutout loss.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of ways I could dive into this one, but just overall, really disappointing if you're South Korea. You went into this game way too conservative, way too feeling like you were the much better team, and almost as if they were playing for a draw again, but this time it's against the South Africa team that you're much better than. I was really looking forward to them putting their foot on the gas and really going for as many goals as they can. I mean, to solidify their second place position. And they didn't do that. And I was really surprised at the lack of execution and aggression in the final third. I think that they lacked that the whole game. They weren't putting the pressure on South Africa, and especially when they went down a goal too as well. It was like, what are y'all doing? And even the substitutes that came on didn't really make that much. Song Heung-min, who is the South Korean, best player, he didn't even make a difference. Credit to South Africa for fighting and battling in a game that nobody expected them to win. And, congrats to them. They get a round of 32 spot in against Canada, and they left South Korea now wondering if they'll get in and where they'll play. So yeah, unbelievable game.
Yeah, I think this comes down in a decent chunk to Youngbo Hong, their head coach, and the choices he made, because you burned through 3 of your substitutes at the half, including changing out your captain, thinking that's going to make that big of a difference. You should have in the locker room. I would have said we need to start pressuring the ball more. Like anytime we get the ball, we need to start darting down, going fast, trying to set up corner opportunities, which a couple of those came in. I mean, this was Korea Republic's game to lose. They had 68% possession of the ball, 6-4 on corners. And I mean, they had both teams had 1 yellow card, so not as bad on the foul side. I mean, it was 9-7 in terms of fouls against Korea Republic having 9, and this is just it's the first time in a while. I think we had maybe 1 or 2 other matches in this tournament where you had at least like 40% or less possession of the ball. That team ends up winning, which is just shocking when that happens, especially when you talk about how important it is to control the ball and get it back over into the other side. But the fact that they couldn't even get into the double digits metric on their shots is just shocking to me. When South Africa did at 13 attempts on goal, 4 of them on target, and 4 was all they needed, which that's pretty good in your on-target percentage of shots, that you're 25% of the time guaranteed to get a goal, especially in the World Cup and at this stage of the game. But, I mean, credit to South Africa, man. They have a round of 32 match in Los Angeles against Canada, one of the host nations, who's not even playing in their own host nation. So I'm not going to jump the gun on this quite early, but I think with the way South Africa has played and the momentum they've had in these group stage games, especially with their opening shutout loss against Mexico, this could be one of those dark horse teams. But the problem is they also have to get through Morocco potentially in the round of 16, which I don't know how that's going to go down, especially with Morocco being a more complete team. But at least against Canada, I mean, I know Canada had that impressive blowout win against Qatar, which Qatar hadn't won a match here in the tournament. But I think the South African team might actually have some stuff going for them as they head to Los Angeles.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is a Canada team that's proved they are beatable. And if you're South Africa, first of all, you're just amazed that you've made it this far. But now you look ahead, and your first round of 32 matchup is a winnable game. No disrespect to Canada, I feel like Canada will win the game ultimately. But yeah, no, it's a really exciting feeling for South Africa and really deflating feeling for South Korea.
Yeah, but as we mentioned, I mean, again, congratulations to South Africa on clinching the second spot in Group A and getting into the knockout phase. And as we mentioned, right now, as it stands, Korea Republic is 4th on the top 8 teams. So if they can potentially hold the line and stay in there, because at least it looks like, Scotland is probably one of those first teams out. I mean, if Paraguay ends up losing to Australia, I mean, that can help their case as well. Algeria fight. So the teams that are below them right now, Algeria, and this is in order: Algeria, Paraguay, Scotland, and Cabo Verde. And specifically, those first 3, Cabo Verde has 2 points. The rest of the 3 teams have 3. So that's where you start getting into this. You're waiting and you're watching and you're hoping other teams in these respective groups make mistakes, because if they do, then you have the advantage over them. And it also helps that it's just a -1 goal differential, because if South Africa had managed to start blowing them out or scoring multiple goals at the end, then they would have gone way down in the standings and pretty much been be in Scotland's shoes right now, where they're at a -3 on the goal differential, and they have to hope that any of these other teams, get blown out in their respective group play stages. But regardless, congratulations again to South Africa. We got 6 games to predict this time. We got some good ones with groups E, F, and D finalizing their group play. Some of them actually finalizing things, some of them just playing for pride, but we'll get you all of them right now. Curacao and Ivory Coast. That's one of the first matches that kicks us off for the day here in Group E. And I got to tell you, this Ivory Coast team, wow. I mean, wow. You talk about not only upsetting Ecuador with a 1-0 victory, but holding Germany to 2 goals after their blowout win against Curacao. Impressive. Not only that, Curacao tying with Ecuador to get a point in this tournament, especially as the smallest nation ever to participate in a World Cup. Philadelphia, for those who have tickets to this one, it should be fun for them. And another factor for you here as we get into this Group E matchup, all these teams are mathematically alive to get to the round of 32. Now, Ecuador and Curacao need a ton of help, and we'll get into that with the Ecuador-Germany matchup. But right now, for Ivory Coast and Curacao, the fact that either of these teams win, now, if Ivory Coast wins, they're guaranteed a spot in the round of 32 because of their point side. They're at 3 points. But Curacao wins, they put themselves in really good position because they'll have 4 points, and they could, I don't know if they'll clinch the second place with that, but it depends on if Ecuador somehow upsets Germany, that throws a monkey wrench into these things. But I think Germany, as we've seen already with Mexico, and as we've seen with well, Mexico, I think, is the only one that's had this sort of thing. But we saw it with Mexico where they already won the group. They didn't have any reason to really worry about anything in group play. Like, these teams come to play. They come with the mindset of, we want to keep the momentum going and we don't want to, put our pedal off of the gas. But I'm just going to tell you right now, Drew, I think this is the match of the day. I genuinely think, and considering the slate of matches that we have through in Group F, I think this is the match of the day, especially for 2 teams that nobody really thought were going to make any difference in this World Cup, especially against Germany and Ecuador in their matches, and they have. Like, Curacao ranked 82nd on the world rankings, and I mean, Ivory Coast's up at 33, so I mean, they've been doing all right, but the fact that Ivory Coast has not made it out of the group stage in the 3 times they've been in the World Cup,
Yeah.
I think this is the year. I think Ivory Coast, especially with how they shocked the entire audience of the FIFA World Cup with the 1-0 victory against Ecuador, and the fact that they could compete with Germany, who had such a huge blowout game against Curacao. I think this is the year of Curacao. Or I think this is the year of Ivory Coast. I think this is the year that they get out of the group stage. I think, unfortunately, Curacao, even though they're the smallest nation, their Cinderella story ends here. But I think it is a 1-0 game. I don't think this is high scoring. I think both teams are very stringent on the back line. I think the midfielders hold pretty well. But I think Ivory Coast makes their history this year and goes to the elimination stage for the first time in their national team history.
Yeah, I think that Ivory Coast is playing like to a level that we didn't expect. We were talking with Kai Dambach and his Germany team, and I was talking about Ivory Coast more than I was talking about Germany, even though Germany won that game, because they just played so good and they played one of the top teams to a level that we haven't seen. And their win against Ecuador was also very impressive. They have talent on this team, and I love the way they play. They play with a lot of aggression. Diamande is a threat and a danger to everyone he steps on the field with. This is going to be a fun one. I think Curacao, again, like they have a lot to be proud of. Drawing Ecuador is not for the faint of heart. So I really do have a lot of respect for them. I do believe Ivory Coast handles this Curacao team, though, and really, really makes a statement to get that second place positioning in Group E. I have them winning this game 3-1, actually.
And here's the other thing about that as well. Even if these two teams tied, I think Ivory Coast would, if they tied, they would technically be they'd be the team to go to. They'd be second place in Group E, like because they'd have 4 points. Ivory Coast would. Curacao would technically go above Ecuador in the standings. I think technically they would have some sort of third place hopes on there, but they would go to they'd go to like the 11th or 12th place on that, and they wouldn't really have a chance on there. So they'd still be eliminated. So basically, Curacao, it's winning in for Curacao. That's their only option really on here. But for Ivory Coast, they win and they're in. Even if they draw, they're in. So I could see this going to 0-0 as well. But I think Ivory Coast gets a 1-0 victory, and they lock things up. Ecuador, Germany. What a tale of two cities, my friends. Like, Germany is on their way to hosting a round of 32 match. They're playing for certainly to keep a statement and keep the momentum side. Ecuador playing for their lives to get into the round of 32, especially for a team that has not won a game at this World Cup. They are 0-1-1. And it's, again, another team that a lot of people thought were going to be a dark horse and thought they were going to shake up some noise in the round of 32. And this has just been so disappointing for Ecuador. And yes, I get it. The last time they went to the round of 16 was in 2006, and that was their best result in the World Cup. I mean, there was that whole 3-point paperwork penalty going into the qualifying stage for them to even get to this point. But just Valencia hasn't shown up. Paez hasn't showed up. Moises Caicedo has not shown up, even though he usually does the work of two defenders in the midfield, which, I mean, you saw that a little bit in their 0-0 tie, but it's not enough. And this Ecuador team has not been enough. And they're not going to be enough against this German team. I think that Germany sends them home. I think Germany still has the same desire as Mexico and the United States do, or Mexico did, and the United States does, of finishing strong in their group, taking a full 9 points to put no shadow of a doubt that they're going to be dominant in the elimination phase. So I say Germany wins on this, but I think it's not as bad on a scoring margin. I'll say 3-0 that Germany wins against Ecuador.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Germany's going to come out this game kind of similar, reminiscent to Mexico. And even though they've already got the group clinched, I think they're going to still, come out and try to prove that those first two games weren't a fluke, and they're still one of the top nations. And originally going into this World Cup, I thought that the Germany-Ecuador match was going to decide the group. Boy, was I wrong. I mean, Ecuador has been such a disappointment, one of the biggest disappointments in the tournament. Inter Valencia, I expected a lot more from. But yeah, it was really interesting run for Ecuador, drawing with Curacao, and something that just nobody expected. I think they're very deflated right now. That being said, I don't think this Germany team will dominate in this match tomorrow. I actually have it going 2-1 to Germany. I still have Germany winning, but I do have it being a little closer than people think. I think Ecuador is going to come out just with nothing to lose, because technically they're not eliminated yet, and Germany's going to come out a little bit flat at first, but I have them winning 2-1.
I'll put it this way. If the results end up going that way, if Ivory Coast and Ecuador win, Ivory Coast wins second place in the group. Or they'd be at 6 points. They'd be second place in the group just because of the tiebreaker stuff. But Ecuador would be at 4 points, and they would put themselves in a really good position to get into the elimination phase. And maybe the dark horse side does come out there. Maybe Ecuador proves to people that it was just a fluke, because we saw it with Messi in 2022 in Argentina. They lost their opener to Saudi Arabia, and they managed to go on a run and such. So maybe Ecuador proves us wrong. Maybe they end up, they say, hey, we were saving our energy for when it actually mattered, I suppose. But I think Germany has too much pride. I think they won't let anything happen on that. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Group F, some of the interesting matches of the day, although I stand by Ivory Coast Curacao, I think is going to be the match of the day between two teams that are just wanting to prove so much. Netherlands, Tunisia. This is going to be a blowout. Like, Tunisia's already eliminated. Tunisia has not really done anything in this World Cup so far. I mean, blow down 5-1 against Sweden, 4-0 against Japan. Netherlands blew out Sweden 5-1. They tied with Japan, and how tough that opening matchup was. So I think Tunisia, unfortunately, they as much pride as they have, they're not going to win this one. I think the Netherlands, they want to blow them out, and they lock up the number one spot in Group F, and put no doubt in anybody else's mind that the Netherlands are a deep-rooted team that is going to create carnage in the next round.
I think that, yeah, I agree. I think that the Netherlands are going to look at this game and, it's all about goal difference. And they are aware of who they play in the next round between either Brazil or Morocco. And I probably would like to imagine they favor Morocco in that matchup more than they would like Brazil. They have to beat Tunisia by more than Japan beats Sweden. I think they're going to do that with ease. I think they're going to not take this game lightly. I think they're going to go full strength, try to score as many goals as possible. And yeah, the Netherlands are going to dominate this game. Tunisia has proved to be a very weak opponent, in all three of their matches so far. Japan had their way with them, and so did Sweden. Netherlands is going to be no different. I have them winning this game. I'm going to say, see, now I wanted to say 5-0. I'm going to say 4-0. I'm going to say 4-0 Netherlands.
I realized I forgot to say what my goal score was going to be on that. So you're fine with that. I'm going 5-0. Netherlands is going to put no doubt in anyone's minds, because right now, again, as I was mentioning on the tiebreakers, it was either earlier or before we got out into the recording. Netherlands and Japan right now have +4 in their goal differentials. They're both at 4 points. So it comes down to yellow cards and red cards. And by the tiebreakers, Netherlands is leading on that metric. So you're right. Netherlands has to beat Tunisia more than Japan potentially beats Sweden. Not giving my prediction early there, folks. You get to stick around and listen to it for a couple more seconds. But I think, yes, I think Netherlands wins 5-0 to make it really difficult on Japan if they want to win the group, especially with that tie early on. But yeah, I got 5-0 for Netherlands over Tunisia. Japan, Sweden. Oh man, this is interesting, because both teams faced off against the Netherlands, and Japan tied them. Sweden got blown out. Sweden blew out Tunisia. So did Japan. So you could say this is evenly matched. You could also say that Sweden just didn't have that great of a game plan against the Netherlands, which to a certain extent is true. I think Japan is on a momentum. Oh, actually, that reminds me. Shout out to our great friend, my great friend, Jordy, as I call him, from Down Under. He wanted to say he has a hot take, kind of a crazy hot take about Japan. Let me see what he actually said. And he did want to ask you about after the result of Japan-Sweden. His hot take: if Japan beats Sweden tomorrow, they make the semifinals. That is his hot take for the tournament. He said, crazy hot take, but I can see it. And he said it was an interesting fact about Japan is that they haven't lost to a European nation in over 2 years, which, if we look at the path for Group F, which, by the way, just on my prediction side here for Japan, Sweden, I think this ends in a draw. I think that it's a little more even match than people realize, even though it was 2-2. and 5-1 on the score lines for the team. Both of them were facing off against the Netherlands. I think this is a tie. I think it's a low-scoring tie of 1-1. And I think technically that gets both of them in a good position. Japan would win second place in the group. Sweden would have 4 points. Again, great positioning for them in the third place side. And neither of them, especially Sweden's at a 0 goal differential. Japan would stay at 4. But if 2F, which would be Japan, if that's their final result, they would face off against Brazil. Yeah, they'd be against Brazil and in the same quadrant of the bracket as Mexico, which that would be what a match. And that would also send the Netherlands to Morocco in Monterrey Stadium. So, man, this is interesting. But yeah, I got this going as a tie. I think Japan-Sweden tie at 1-1. I think it's a little bit closer than people realize. And that pretty much just makes it easy for the Netherlands. And they don't have to blow out Tunisia as much as they have to, but they're still going to do it anyways. But I got a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, I mean, I have this as my matchup of the day for sure. I think this is going to be a thriller. I think that Sweden's going to come out not intimidated. And I actually have this game going in Japan's favor, but it's going to be a high scoring one. I'm going to go 3-2 Japan.
Okay.
Again, I think it's going to be a unbelievable matchup. I think both teams, because both teams know what's at stake. For Japan, you're trying to battle and have as many goals as you can to try to outwit the Netherlands to get that number 1 spot. And then if you're Sweden, you're trying to just make the round of 32. So very high scoring game, really competitive. I'm going 3-2 in favor of the Japanese.
Yeah, I it is going to tie. Well, in my opinion, it will tie. But if this is one of those situations of Panama where they lost in stoppage time, I would not be shocked. That could be very well what happens here for either of the teams trying to break it and to get 3 points instead of just 1. I think it could be one of those stoppage time goals, which would make for great television, actually. So, anyways, the question, depending on the result from tomorrow, Jordan wants to know your opinion on. Okay, he's saying I'm curious to see what Drew says. Ask him tomorrow or the day after, depending on the results against Sweden. Specifically about your hot take with Japan. Let's see what the result is tomorrow, and we can talk about it on the podcast later.
Yes.
But I do think it is a certified hot take from that, especially considering
that's a burning hot take.
well, especially considering Japan has never made it past the round of 16. So
Yes.
that's the big thing on it, which I'm like, I mean, maybe. Speaking of Jordy, Group D, Paraguay, Australia. Desperation, my friend, between these teams in Group D.
Yeah.
Both of them still mathematically alive. Australia currently sits at a 0 goal differential in second place. Paraguay is at -2. So if Paraguay wants to guarantee that they will get second place in the group, they have to win and get 6 points. A tie does not help them. Well, I'll put it this way. It does not help them for getting a guaranteed spot in the bracket. It does give them really good positioning for a third place spot, which right now Paraguay is at 6th. So you've got a lot of these teams that are fighting for these final spots, which again, this is where it gets amazing. We don't have to worry about this NCAA March Madness or college football playoff thing of who's in. We don't know because there's not a website that shows us this stuff. We have to wait until a bunch of guys go into a room with smoke coming out of it, and then they say,
Yeah.
SMU.
Oh Lord,
had to make a callback from a couple of years ago for the Bama fans. But anyways, Paraguay, Australia, this should be a great one, especially between Japan. Japan, Sweden is going to be good. I love desperation sport. I love it when these teams are fighting for the playoff lives and being on the last second desperation stuff. It's great. I am not sold on Paraguay, especially considering they only beat Turkey by 1 goal. Australia beat them by 2, especially losing by 3 goals to the United States, and Australia only losing by 2. I'm going to say Australia books their ticket to the round of 32. I think they get this done. I think it'll still be, especially because Australia, they've only scored 2 goals in their 2 matches. Paraguay has scored the same amount. I think it's a low-scoring affair, and I say this is probably a 2-0 victory for the Socceroos, and they managed to punch their ticket to, if they're 2D, that would send them not on the same side of the bracket as the United States. That would send them in the same section where their quarterfinal would potentially be against Argentina, and they'd face off against the 2G team, which with the way it is could be Egypt, Iran, or Belgium. So it's not a favorable match for the Socceroos, but I got this one being 2-0 in favor of Australia.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Australia is going to come out and, both of these teams realize what's at stake. I mean, to get that spot, I actually, believe it or not, the teams you just listed of Egypt, Iran, or Belgium, I actually like that matchup compared to some of the other matchups that I've heard. So I think Australia is going to come out and win tomorrow. I think it's going to be 2-1. I do think Paraguay will get a goal. I actually think they'll get the first goal, and then I think that Australia will battle back and come back and have a pretty significant 2-1 victory. And yeah, like I said, like claim their second place in Group D and advance to the round of 32. It should be a good game. This is going to be one that definitely want to tune into tomorrow.
And whoever decided to schedule these games at 7 p.m. on the West Coast, I'm fine with it. But the people
Brutal
over on
for
the
East
East
Coast.
Coast, yes, it's 10 p.m. in the evening over in New York time. So I feel sorry for you folks. Gets into our last one, USA, Turkey. Turkey is already eliminated from getting to the round of 32. The United States, they can't move up. They can't do anything better. It's just a pride point for both of these respective nations. Turkey has not scored a single goal in this tournament. They have not been able to get anything going. It's just very much one of those when you look at these teams, especially because you wonder why their midfield glue captain in Hakan has not shown up anywhere. I mean, Arda Güler was a part of the Champions League, and he hasn't done anything either. So it's just a disappointing loss. The Turkey media has destroyed this national team, and I would say justifiably so, with not being able to put any offensive production on in their first 2 games, and pretty much being 3 and done in a way. I think the United States, and look, there's a lot of talk that happened with Christian Pulisic in terms of, he said he's feeling good. Pochettino's still on the approach of, let me not tell the media about the starters. He did clarify those who are on yellow cards for the United States will not play, which is smart. It makes sense.
Very
Why
smart.
risk it for the elimination game? And I know he's not pressured by the media, but a lot of the media was saying the same thing too. And even I think it was Alexi Lawless said, well, if you play them and someone gets a yellow card and they're out in the round of 32, we in the media will skewer you and
Yes,
basically to say,
absolutely.
like, what in the world are you doing? Which, yeah, they could get away and they could be easy, but it's just not worth the risk. I don't think Christian Pulisic plays in this game, to be honest with you. I don't think he should, because yes, he says he's 100%, and I respect it if he wants to play. There is not a lack of desire from any of these players to play. Let me clarify that and be really clear. Every one of those 26 players on the roster for Team USA, even though it's a game that does not change anything for their seeding, they want to play in this game because they love this national team. They love the game of soccer so much. But they understand and respect the coaching side and the strategy and how these things work out. So all that being said, I think Team USA puts on a show in Los Angeles. I believe this would be one of the last times. This is the last time the Team USA will play in Los Angeles, because their next match is San Francisco. After that would be Seattle, and then the quarterfinal would be. Oh, I'm actually mistaken. They would be back in Los Angeles for the quarterfinal. So this is the second to last time, if it goes to that point. I got Team USA winning. I don't think there's any problems for them. I think this is maybe a 3-0 victory. It could be 2-0. I'll stick with 3-0, but I think this is a blowout win. Turkey gets sent back without a goal to their home nation, probably costing the head coach's job, knowing how these things work in the World Cup. But I got a 3-0 victory for Team USA.
Yeah, Turkey is one of the biggest disappointments in this tournament. A lot of people expected them to finish second in this group, and I think that that was what the expectation was for them as well. Chanaloglu, their captain, has been pretty much a disappointment and a no-show in this tournament so far, and they're playing a United States team that's flying right now, and that's really really happy with where they are. I don't think Pulisic should play. I think that everybody on a yellow card sitting makes sense, and we proved that we can win games without Pulisic, and I think that that's the biggest thing, and I love that we didn't play him against Australia because it kinda showed that this team can compete and still create chances and goals without him. I'm looking, for a complete win, a complete 9 points, from an available 9, and yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a 2-0 victory for the United States, rounding out their group stage, winning all 3 games, and heading into the round of 32, where they'll most likely take on Bosnia. I think that's what the biggest predictions and things have been so far. But yeah, I have no doubt in my mind, even though we've already clinched the group. I know that there's like worry that, oh, we won't try. So no, we're gonna put on a show for our fans, and we're gonna dominate. And I think that the U.S. will win 2-0, and yeah, clinch 9 points.
Yeah, like I said, I stick with 3-0, so that way it's just a even more, not even a doubt. I think the third goal will be something of a fluke. Maybe it's an own goal. I'm not going to
Right.
say that fully, but it could be, because that would just add
We've had a
on
couple so
to.
far.
Yeah, I mean, that would just add on to the wear and tear of Turkey, but, I don't see Team USA losing tomorrow. And even if they do, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. I know the media will probably skewer Team USA if they were to lose, but like, they're already on to the round of 32, and they're not going to be on like a bunch of their starters and players. So what's the harm other than momentum in a way, which can make a difference, but it'll be fun to see it tomorrow, and it'll be fun to see that conclusion of group play for the United States. And they would make history to be the first time to win 3 consecutive games in a World Cup, and I believe the first time they would get the most points of group play ever in their team history, which would be kind of cool on that. But yeah, it's World Cup continues along. We get to see more action tomorrow with 6 games all day continuously happening, and hopefully they can fix your AC tomorrow. I see you're struggling over there,
I'll be
Drew.
back. I'll be back in my original setup tomorrow. Thank the Lord. This was a one time for this episode thing, but yeah, I'll be back in my original my setup tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, it's been a struggle, but we get through it.
I will say, folks, I'm not going to jump the gun beforehand. The match starts at 7 o'clock on the West Coast, so we'll play it by ear on if we're going to do an episode tomorrow. Maybe one of those that we do the next day, depending on my
Yeah,
transit side of
I would
things.
prefer that.
Well, because again, I may be traveling to Miami. I'm not sure yet. I'm either Miami or Nashville coming back on Friday at a minimum, but I have to get the media ticket potentially approved from FIFA and figure out the stuff from there. So just waiting until they give it to me. But good appreciation to ETN for joining us on the show. Another great episode. Make sure you look at the link in the description to figure out how you can contribute to the podcast. Get your name mentioned on the final video and help support the journey to the 2026 FIFA World Cup. For Drew Williamson, all the hardworking men and women that make this run so smoothly, I'm Spencer Thompson saying so long from various parts of the United States. Another episode of the NSMA 2026 FIFA World Cup podcast continues as we have more action set for the day as the bracket for the round of 32 gets even more clear. Hey there, thank you so much for listening or watching the NSMA 2026 FIFA World Cup podcast. A special thank you to our Platinum Insiders, the Banzet family, Robert Eggleston and Jason Edmonds, for their support of the podcast. If you'd like to support the podcast and my journey to the 2026 FIFA World Cup, the link is in the description. Not only are all donations potentially tax deductible, as the NSMA is a 501c3 nonprofit, but you also can get your name here on this graphic in the description, and you can get some exclusive behind-the-scenes content. Appreciate those of you who have donated so far, those who are going to donate, and hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast during the 2026 FIFA World Cup.